This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. Hey, what's up and welcome to Content Commentary, the show where I take your comments and make commentary of it. It's my chance to talk back to you on this show instead of just answering your questions. Let's have a little bit of a conversation. Let's get into it and start with the Browns fans' worst takes of 2023. Y'all had some interesting takes in here. Farming Stote says, hey, looking forward to seeing what Chubb can do when there's a legitimate passing and running threat in the backfield. Hopefully Watson's play opens up for Chubb. Well, Watson's play opens up things for Chubb. That's the hope. That's a reasonable hope. I think, honestly, it will have an effect. I think when we talk about these things and these sweeping terms, I think people get the wrong expectation from that. Will Chubb be more efficient? I think so. But I don't think he's going to have an explosion of yards or anything like that. I think he's still going to put up Nick Chubb numbers. But if he puts up Nick Chubb numbers with less carries, what does that mean? He's more efficient. Now, he's not going to have a career year. He's probably going to have 1,300 yards, probably like 10 touchdowns. But that's work. That's good work right there, right? Brian Brown says, Watson, from this same video, Watson shouldn't have come back and been named the starter after playing for 2 years. And the suspension, you could have kept Jacoby as the starter and played Watson in games that we were going to lose for sure, or in games we had locked up that would have helped him get playing time or ease him into the role and be ready for next season. The man hadn't played in almost 2 years, and you just handed the ball over to a QB who was playing well. Okay. So I have several issues with this comment. One, why keep Jacoby in there? Why struggle to keep trying to give Jacoby playing time? At that point in the season, the Browns were basically out the playoff run. I know there were like some scenarios where we could have made it if we went out, but we were basically out of it. Two, Jacoby Brissett did not have a future here. So again, I don't see what the point in having him play would be. And three, even if they did make the playoffs and you had to do this convoluted thing with Deshaun Watson, you're not actually helping yourself because it's not the playing time that was the only reason why it was important that Deshaun Watson played. You wanted Deshaun Watson in there so you can know how he handles game weeks. Right? They had never known how he handled game weeks as a starter. If you have him as the backup and you're running special packages for him, you're not going to find that out. You're not going to find out what he likes, what he doesn't like in the offense. You're not going to find out what he struggles with and what he succeeds with in the offense. If you're so worried about losing very minuscule playoff hopes and being I think it's very short-sighted to think that way or to have acted that way, because what's the long-term benefit? Maybe you go 8-8, 8-9 instead of 7-10. Congratulations, you still suck. Like I don't get the benefit. I don't see the reason for doing it. If Jacoby Brissett played those last few games, we weren't going to have a winning record because we didn't have a winning record when Jacoby Brissett was the quarterback for 11 games. So what makes us think, by the way, Jacoby Brissett, I believe he went 4-7 in those 11 games. Deshaun Watson went 3-3. So he had a better win percentage than Jacoby Brissett when he was out there. I don't know what the assumption is that it would have been any different if Jacoby Brissett was in there. And if we were going to go 7-10 or 8-9 anyways, what benefit would it have been to have Jacoby Brissett out there? For Jacoby Brissett and Deshaun Watson. It would lower his stock in free agency. And for Deshaun Watson, you would have sat there for 6 weeks barely playing or getting these weird odd job reps to do what exactly? To help what? at least with these 6 games, we got 6 games worth of tape. We had 6 games worth of knowledge. We got 6 games worth of game week prep. We got 6 games worth of knowing what he likes, what he doesn't, what we could put in the game plan, what we can't. And you have more information to get better next year. Once Deshaun Watson got suspended for 11 games, there were hopes to get something out of 2022. But the focus became about 2023. Once the Browns did not win 6 games in the first 11, this season, I told y'all at the beginning of the year, I don't know why people thought this would change, but if the Browns did not have 6 wins in those first 11 games, the rest of the season would be about developing Deshaun Watson. That's what the season would be about. Not making the playoffs, but developing Deshaun Watson for obvious reasons. Like getting your franchise quarterback acclimated, letting him shake off the rust, letting him get used to a new offense, finding out what works for him and what doesn't in the offense. There was no benefit for playing Jacoby Brissett. I think it's asinine that take was out there to begin with, and like it's even crazier that we're still out here. There's still people willing to say it. The next comment is from these videos. Y'all want to trade Greg Newsome for a 3rd round pick. Y'all really was out here saying crazy stuff. But Keith said, Q, I love the videos, especially the rant about a 7th round bust. The only thing I would counter with is I think we need to hit on more than one guy per draft. I know that you were talking about when we don't have a 1st round pick, but still to maintain and be a competitive team, I think we need at least a 20 to 33% success rate on drafting what would be a successful player for around a 2nd contract. Otherwise, we must sign multiple free. Okay, so your point is you want about 20 to 33% of all draft picks be guys that you would consider re-signing. Now, one, I think that's a hard thing to judge right now because I don't think any of the Andrew Berry picks are eligible for re-signing. But 2, I don't know necessarily if your assumption that that's not true with the Browns draft is actually true, because if we go back and look at it, I think you'll find there's like 2 players in a couple of drafts that you would want to re-sign. But that being said, I think your main point there about you do want that success rate. I think 33% is a little high. I don't think any team in the league's really consistently hitting 33% right now. When you look at the percentages, I think the average is 28, and then maybe like being 38%, that would put you in like the top 3 or 4 teams in the league. So that would be a little high, but yeah, it does need to be somewhere in there. I mean, the Browns historically have done 16% extension rate, and that's from 2013 to 2019. So they need to do better than what they did historically. But if you look at Andrew Berry's draft picks over the years, that's where I think this conversation gets a little bit interesting, because I don't think that assumption is necessarily as true as some people would want it to be. Because you can make the argument that in 2020, Jan Wills is a player who's going to get a major extension somewhere. Maybe not with Cleveland, but he's going to be an extension level player. He has a wave. Over 20, I think over 18 is usually extension level. You can make the argument that Grant looks like if he has a good season this year, he's well on his way of getting an extension in Donovan Peoples-Jones. So right there in the 2020 draft, we're talking about 3 people already. We go back to 2021, Greg Newsome, JOK, those are 2 already that would be extension level players. And then Richard LeCount, none of these guys. Maybe James Hudson is somebody you want to extend or gets an extension, but I doubt it at this point. And in 2022, right now, it looks like Martin Emerson's definitely going to be in that conversation. Keep an eye on Perion Winfrey. I mean, it's really early to have that conversation, but even if that's your expectation, I think that Andrew Berry is meeting those expectations. I think the assumption that he's not is based on this ideal that I think people have been moving the goalpost on when it comes to judging Andrew Berry and his success in these drafts is how many Pro Bowlers you have. And I'm not going to be as judgmental about the lack of Pro Bowlers that he's drafted, because Pro Bowlers are generally drafted in the first round, or at least, yeah, in the first round. That's where you get, like, I think 70% of all Pro Bowlers come from the first round. Obviously, the Browns have not had but one first round pick. Well, two first round picks since Andrew Berry has gotten here. Jed Wills, who I don't think is a Pro Bowler, but still a very good player. And Greg Newsome, who I do think can develop into a Pro Bowler very easily. So, like, I don't even think the book's written on that. Again, we're doing a lot of definitive assumptions on Andrew Berry and his draft picks when it hasn't been 5 years since the first draft pick he's taken as a Cleveland Browns general manager. So I think a lot of this is very premature judgment on Andrew Berry, because I don't even think these guys are like, what, this is the first year where some of them be up for rookie extensions after this season. I think this conversation is at the very least a year premature, if not 2 or 3 years premature. But yeah, I think he's fine there. You do want him to hit those percentages. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think also, if you look back at those drafts, he's on track to hit those percentages. So that's the good news. Should the Browns take Marvin Mims or Keanu Benton was the next video that I did. You guys said, hey, Keanu Benton progresses every year he's played in college, showing continuous progression. I love progression and everything, but if I have to choose between Marvin Mims or Keanu Benton, I'm going with the player that I think can be the best. And I think that Marvin Mims could be better at his position than Keanu Benton will. I think Marvin Mims could be a Pro Bowler. I think he has a good chance of being a Pro Bowler. I just don't think that of Keanu Benton. I think he'll be a really good player, but he won't be a Pro Bowler. Dominic Greco says, what's up, Q? What do you think of Andrew Berry taking the left tackle? He always surprises us with the pick we didn't see coming. I mean, like, one thing to make note of is, if he takes a left tackle in the third round, it's not going to shock me. Or even in the fourth round, fifth round, like, that's not going to shock me, because one, nobody he takes in this draft is going to be expected to start right away or play significant snaps or starter snaps right away, even if it is Keanu Benton. Maybe if somebody like crazy falls to them, maybe, but other than that, I really don't think you're drafting a starting left tackle in the third round. I mean, again, look at the history of third round picks in the NFL. Not a lot of day one starters at left tackle there. I mean, period. So yeah, he could take a left tackle. That means nothing for Jed Wills or even Conklin. I don't think that's going to be a switch up there. Next video is from The Real Reason NFL is Still Mad About Watson. A lot of thoughts on this. 59 Big Walt says the 80% rule thing did two things. Yes, it did a labor dispute, but it kept smaller franchises from signing QBs and other positions that directly impact the QB. The NFLPA never. I don't agree with this. I don't agree with the first part of it. I agree with the second part of it. I don't think the 80% rule kept small franchises from doing anything, because the 80% rule actually worked in the opposite of what you're suggesting. The 80% rule worked as a deterrent for all 32 teams who signed guaranteed contracts, so everybody got to keep their quarterback, because everybody can afford the non-guaranteed contracts. So I don't think it kept, like, there's no evidence in it. No team has really lost a great quarterback in a small market because they couldn't afford to keep him, even the Bengals, who are notoriously cheap. So I don't agree with that, and I don't find that to be true. Again, my point in that video was the 80% rule was put in place by the owners, and then they sold it to the players as a protection. Well, now, since you sold it as a protection to the players and you want to get rid of it, what you giving up to get rid of it? It should be the NFLPA's mindset on this, because I'm pretty sure that the players with the few players with fully guaranteed contracts out there like knowing and having the security that money is almost all in the bank when they sign that contract. So if you're going to make me give up that peace of mind to lower your escrow payments, then what are you giving up in return? should be the NFLPA's position. Rich Eisen's position was, hey, they should just good faith give up the 80% and cross their fingers in hopes that it means more for the players. But we know this through years of just dealing with big businesses that, you know, just because you lower the taxes on them or make it cheaper for them to do something don't mean that it's going to come back to us in a positive way. That's not necessarily how these things have worked throughout the year. And I don't think the NFL is immune to that. If you tell them that you could pay less on the escrow payment for guaranteed contracts, they're still going to give out less guaranteed contracts because they ain't trying to give up the money. So if they want to lower their escrow payments, you got to get something out of that. You got to get something in writing. Can't just go trust me, bro, with these things. And too many times we go trust me, bro, on this. If you're expecting something you're giving up to come back to you in return, you need to get that in writing. That should be the NFLPA stance. The next video was Deshaun Watson should be elite in 2013. I did this video with my boy Cody. Been watching Q a long time. This is one of my favorite collabs. You two work good together. Hey, good news if you're a Patreon member. Since me and Cody, every time we meet up, we always just go over time because we just enjoy talking about our teams and about our situations. There's an extra 40 minutes that we had that had to be cut because an hour would have been way too long of a video to post on here to get the viewership that this channel needs. So that is exclusively up on Patreon. The extra 40 minutes. We talked about Evan Mobley. We talked about that draft, the Jalen Green and all that draft. We talked more about Deshaun Watson and all that stuff, situations around Houston, a bunch of stuff in that 40 minutes I felt like was great. If you want access to that, unfortunately, yes, I do have to put this behind the paywall. Bills do have to get paid. But now if you're a Patreon member, you're getting more content. Like you're getting exclusive videos, exclusive streams, exclusive access to videos early, some videos early. You're getting a lot for the $3 or $10 that you put down. It used to just be the shout out. Now you're getting all of that at the same price that it's always been at. I think it's a great value. And again, all the content is there once you pay the $3 to $10. If you want to get your name on the screen, like you see at the beginning of these videos, and get that special spotlight shout out, that's going to be the extra $7 on. So the $10 subscription, join the dog check tier. But that's going to be it for this commentary. Y'all have a great day. Have a good night.